Call to order, time is
5:31.
5:31. Invocation by Councilman Orona, pledge allegiance by Councilman Santana. If everybody please stand.
Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you. We ask that you give us wisdom and the courage to do the right decision for our community. I also ask that you send your mercy, your angels of mercy and kindness and help to all the people covered with the coronavirus. We ask that you comfort us and make us all understand and help one another to get through this trying time, but to rely on you for the strength and the courage to move forward. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Alright. Okay, we are now going to D, public comments. Ms. Nichols, is there anything to come before the council?
Yes. Mayor and Council, Siren Nichols, City Secretary. As you all know, we are extending an invitation to the community to submit any public comments to us physically or by email, and I only received one this week. So I'm going to read it out loud, and then Mr. Downey McKinney can follow up with any questions you guys might have. Okay. Mayor and Council, respectfully, I submit this statement in lieu of appearance at a City Council meeting. I am Leslie Knox. My mother, Caroline McNeil, and I reside at 2214 Texas Street, which is in an R1 property zone. Through my own research provided online by the city, I discern boarding houses are not permitted in R1 residential zones. I believe the property across the street from me, 2213 Texas Street, is being operated as a boarding house by the owner, Mr. Oscar Ortega, who resides at 2237 Texas Street. I believe that it is occupied by at least 5 construction workers who work at the CHH subdivision development on Veterans Boulevard. Mr. Ortega does not speak English, and I do not speak much Spanish, and we have not spoken with him. I was told by a neighbor that he bought the house and the adjoining lots with the specific following purposes: to rent the house to the contractor doing the work on the CCH subdivision. The contractor will allow his workers to live there with him until the project is finished, and the contractor will eventually move his family into the house and continue to run this commercial construction business from the house. I am very concerned that this is allowed. Even for a brief period of time, Mr. Ortega will, in the future, continue to lease to other boarders. As you know, situations change, and boarding houses bring with them a myriad of problems, not the least of which is a burden on city services and a degradation on the property, something we do not need in a residential neighborhood. Here is my experience. Many of my calls and voicemails to various city officials have largely gone unanswered or ignored. I was finally told that without evidence from the owner himself that the property is being used as a boarding house, there is nothing that can be done. How do we get that evidence? I was also told that during business hours, there is no evidence that it is a boarding house. Why? Because the boarders are at work. This seems simple. Investigate after hours if need be. I was told to come by City Hall and file an affidavit attesting to my concerns, but that if and when they take Mr. Ortega or the contractor to court, they still need evidence. I ask you again, how am I supposed to get this evidence myself? It does not seem to me that my purview rather than the city's. Additionally, and mildly related, Mr. Ortega has for many months stored heavy construction equipment on his property, which is unsightly. I believe this is probably against the code as well, and ask that you also investigate this matter. Also, Texas Street has become a common avenue for dirt moving vehicles, and we have always had speeding problems that has largely been ignored. And some of the truck drivers who live on Texas Street park their trucks at their personal residences. That problem is only going to get worse with the current economy. I would really appreciate some intense attention to the whole Texas Street, to all of these problems. This is probably an exaggeration, but I have come to believe through various relations with the police, various inspectors, and city officials that the city does not really care much for the enjoyment of Pecos by its longtime citizens, and that this is driven by the need for progress. I am from Pecos and I intend to remain and believe that the temporary situations that exist in the name of progress need not prelude the enjoyment of home and hearth by longtime residents or any residents. How long is the city going to continue to allow profiteers coloring outside the lines to determine the future of longtime residents? I will always call when someone is breaking code or law that destroys the integrity of this neighborhood or disturbs my enjoyment of my home. I follow the rules and maintain my home and allow my neighbors to live in peace and enjoy their homes, and merely expect the same from them. Respectfully submitted, Ms. Leslie M. Knox.
Thank you. I did forget to mention that all councilwomen and men are present, so we do have a quorum. Okay, is there anything else to come before the board?
John?
I'm just here in case y'all have, Donnie McKinney, Chief Building Official, I'm just here in case y'all had any questions about that, so comment.
No, my understanding, we cannot comment on it.
You can, but again, it's up to you.
No, I only got,
We can't take action, but we can
Okay.
discuss it.
have you, when did we hear from this lady? How long ago was this letter?
This letter was just written this week, correct?
Yes, on the 21st, which was
Yes,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. They haven't chance to go by there and see what's going on.
Well, she's been complaining for a while, and I have been by there and checked. I spoke with the gentleman that lives there, and it's him and his 4 sons. They do work for the subdivision that they're building over there at Brandywine,
Mhm.
but they're all related. He's got 4 older sons, and if anybody needs a copy, I have a copy of the boarding house ordinance that
Mhm.
we passed back in 09 of 19. So it does not fit the definition of a boarding house as per our ordinance because they're all related.
Can I see a copy of, do you have an extra copy?
I know behind the residence, there's a chain link fence with some travel trailers in it.
Which one is it, Joe?
I think that's further down.
That's further down.
I believe so.
This is the property next to that greenhouse on the corner of Texas and.
Yes.
That's
Yes, ma'am.
correct.
Oh, it's got the brown steel fence around it, right? I've seen some backhoes and,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I thought that was Jimmy John's house.
They just sold
So-
it.
That's Mr. Ortega's house, the one you're complaining about, right?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Ortega has been given a notice that those construction vehicles cannot be parked there.
Okay.
The same day she wrote the letter,
Okay.
we got out there and, I mean, we'd had it in the works, but it just so happened the day she made the public comments was the same day we got to follow through and give him a notice that those couldn't be parked there.
And I know of the 18-wheeler that's parked next to Ron Garcia's house, I think, somewhere.
Oh, yeah, that's right there in the corner.
Yeah, there's an 18-wheeler that's parked there, that parks there.
I think that's his vehicle, right there in the corner of Texas and,
Yucca, I think it's Yucca.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the other dirt haulers are the ones hauling the dirt for the Brandywine project, I would believe.
But still, that gentleman, those are his sons that live there.
Yes, sir. That was his statement to me, and he offered for me to tour the house if I wanted to check their IDs, to see that they are his sons.
Cause it's pretty easy to say, yeah, these are all my family, so they can fit inside the deal, but you know, we don't know without proof or anything, but
He was willing to give you proof.
Absolutely, and when we discussed this ordinance, that was one of the things we discussed was how hard it was gonna be to prove that.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't know that we have the authority to make them identify themselves, so if they tell me they're all related, I pretty much have to take their word.
Well, we didn't put it on the ordinance as to how far we could go as far as proof. You know.
Right.
And then that's a greater, bigger issue as to how far do you wanna go.
Exactly.
yeah, but it's like anything, you know, it's my word against your word, you know, and unless we have proof, there's really not much we can do about it.
'Cause, I mean, we could get technical and say, okay, 3rd or 4th cousin related to your wife and, you know, this and that. You can't, you know, but where do you make the line, where do you draw the line?
And that was part of our discussion when this was about, we had the public forums and all that, is we don't wanna keep people from being able to profit, but we wanna try our best to mitigate the impact on the neighborhoods, so.
And I know that Leslie, originally she had come to one of the council meetings with the concern that where they're built the houses on Brandywine, that she would hope that there would be no RV sites. I don't know if you remember, but she came and spoke a while back.
And as far as I know, there's no RVs in that
No.
area.
And of
There's
course,
one,
if
there's
she
one.
wants a response, we'll go ahead and put it on the next meeting agenda, and we can always have responses. We can't act on it right now.
Yeah, and one of the things that she made a point is, you know, we got a lot of new people here, and these are the people that have lived here all their lives, and I've talked to different people about the same thing, and it looks like we're dropping the ball on those folks, the folks that have lived here. You know, they've seen Pecos up, down over the years, and right now we're at a standstill because of this stuff, but still we need to make I guess to us a priority that, hey, Pecos is first, construction workers are welcome and all that, but still our citizens are the ones that live here, you know, have lived here all their lives, raised their families here. Those are the ones that we really need to be taking care of, you know. If our parents were alive, that's what we would want, all of us. So, yeah, like Councilman, like the mayor said, we need to bring it in for an agenda item next.
And we will respond.
Let's do it so that let's do it right, and in the meantime, if you can swing by there, I mean, you already talked to him and all that, but let's do whatever. I got it.
And the 18-wheelers are a problem. My mom lives on Locust. There's
Yeah.
18-wheelers that go to Wild West Trucking on the other side of the tracks.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I've called the chief, but they're so far stretched out that by the time they show up, they're gone.
Yeah.
You know, so.
My code enforcement officers probably sticker at least 10 trucks a week, tell them they can't be parked there. And
Yeah,
so
and
they'll
there's
move them
also,
somewhere else for a few days, and
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's the reality
It's
of
a
it.
cat and mouse game, really.
Yeah, don't move them, don't
Yeah.
expect to move them.
Mhm. We're trying. I mean, you know, we are trying, and of course, people are gonna say that we're not doing anything, or we're not trying at all, or we're ignoring the concerns and the complaints that our citizens have, but we are trying, you know, we are doing ordinances to address these issues, but it's
We're just going through some growing pains.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
good, that's the way to put it.
Is there anything else?
Mayor and Council, Seth Swenson, City Manager, I'd like to just brag on city staff for just a minute. First of all, I'd like to let you know that Municipal Court has been working very diligently these last few months, and they have actually caught up on 5 years worth of cases, and they are current. They have put in a superhuman effort to get us current, and they've done a wonderful job with that. We also set a record, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, however you want to look at it. This last month, they brought in $67,000 worth of fines out of those 5 years. Now, that's a one-time thing. We don't want that to
be recurring.
and just like, you know, truck parking and things like that, the code enforcement is very diligent about enforcing. We'd rather have compliance than we would issue the fines, but they've been doing a very good job, and I'd like to recognize them for that. I'd also like to recognize the Human Resources Department, especially Ms. Kristen Irie. As you know, with the COVID that's going on, healthcare has become problematic, let's say, to get in and see your preferred provider, see your doctor. Some doctors' offices have closed altogether, and they just are not open right now. She recognized that as this was going, and she initiated a new service for our employees. They are not paying anything for this service. It is a little bit additional for the city to the amount of $13 per month per employee, but we felt that that was a good investment. And what this service is called Teledoc, and our employees can call with their covered dependents, can call 24/7. They can have a quick consult. They can get most of their prescriptions filled. They can get refills. There's also mental health. Stress is kind of high right now, understandably so, on top of the stress that we all carry day to day. So you can call and get mental counseling, and it's been a wonderful service. Our employees are already taking advantage of it. But I would like to thank the Human Resources Department for being proactive about finding a way for our employees to have access to medical care. And it's been a great service.
Thank you. It's thankful for us as well. Okay, go ahead.
Are we still in public comment?
Yes, sir.
I got a couple of things I'd like to say.
Get it off your chest.
One of the things that last week, I think it was last week, that we got that Amber Alert on the
From
phones.
It was an emergency alert, not Amber.
Well, I mean, but it came through
Yes.
Amber.
No,
Oh.
it's an emergency, alert that also the emergency management,
Oh, okay.
management of any county can.
Cause I never got it, but I heard it on the radio, and I listened to AFR all day long, and that's out of Mississippi, I think. And it came through the radio, so, you know, I turned, but, the question I have, or the comment, is that, I got a bunch of phone calls because people were confused, because it was saying that we had to, you know, walk around with, anywhere we went to public, to put a face shield or a face mask or whatever. But, I got the calls and I didn't know how to answer them, you know, and they told me that they got into, and I don't know if it was in our website and the radio or anything, because I didn't see anything, and they were trying to call to see if it would pertain to us, you know, to Pecos. And with that being said, we need to, and I don't know how, if we did anything, I don't know, because I didn't ever check, if the city made a comment on the Facebook or I wrote it down.
Cause actually Jerry's hired through the commissioner's court, through the judge. So the judge is more aware of what he's
Okay.
doing and what's going
Right.
on. Not so much the city, because he acts on, I'm gonna say his own sometimes. But yes, I think we all got calls and everything
Yeah.
else trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
and that's what, I just wanna make a point across, if something like that happens again, we need to let the public know, like, hey, whoa, wait a minute here, but maybe it was just a suggestion, Councilman Orona and I were talked about it, and it was like a suggestion, but man, people didn't take it like that, they're in panic anyway, so.
Exactly.
And the second thing I wanted to say was, Governor Abbott, put out an executive order, GA 16. I saw it yesterday. It was dated for yesterday, but it was talking about the churches. And through that order, basically, we can start having church, except as long as they fall under the orders that he puts out. So I just wanna encourage everybody, if that's what we're gonna do, I already talked to the pastor of my church, and we're gonna play it by ear, and we're still gonna record, but because we have an older generation in our church, like one of the suggestions on the order was to, and it was just a suggestion, you know, to instruct encourage all attending 65 and over to stay home until they feel comfortable coming to a church. I mean, we don't wanna go full blown, all of a sudden, here we go again. Let's play it smart, he's basically, Governor Abbott giving us okay, let's start opening up, but let's be smart about it, without giving us orders to do it or not do it. It's how we feel, so that gives us, it was a 3-page deal, I read it all, but the guidelines make only recommendations. It says, make only recommendations to houses of worship and churches. So, I wanna encourage all of us, I'm a churchgoer, I go to church every time the doors are open, and, because I'm involved very, very much, and I'm an associate pastor. And so, I just wanna encourage people, that if you feel comfortable coming, but it's gonna be, I think the deal is 10 people still, separated, but they're opening the doors, if I understand this thing right, so, and we sure don't need to send law enforcement in there, that looks bad. If something's out of whack, let's make a phone call before we send law enforcement into a church, because it does not look right. And that is basically like our government trying to dictate to us, yes, we can go, no, we cannot, and he's given us the freedom to go. And it also talks about your drive-through services. He says, it permits drive-throughs to provide services and goods, so the house of worship may, according to their faith practice, provide communion and blessing through similar drive-up services. So
I just wanna kinda encourage it, because a lot of people don't see this thing, so I just wanted to say that, I'm encouraged that we're starting to open. We can't be shut down like this. Our town can't afford it. The city manager made that point across a month ago when we were talking about shutting down. Cannot afford it. Pecos can't afford that. We don't have we have mom and pop, businesses. We don't have the big national brands that can support each other. So that's what I want to say. I just want to encourage all of us, let's stay strong, let's pray for each other, and let's keep on going forward, because that's the only way we're gonna do this. And we're gonna beat it together, and I think you made that point across the other day also.
And you know,
Thank
guys,
you.
I wanna, and during this comment session, I wanna let you know that, of course, every Tuesday and Thursday, we do have a conference call with, some school board members, the superintendent, Mr. Swanson, with the city, the judge. We only have one, sometimes only one commissioner, which is fine, because we try not to have a consensus of the board, of course. And it's usually me and Ms. Baca on there. And we just talk about what is it the governor's saying, what is it we're looking at, what is it that the school is doing, what is it that we want to do. And of course, today we had one, Judge couldn't make it today because he was on a different call, from what I understand. Because the governor has set a committee to give us guidance how to go about, reopening up. He actually is not saying what he wants us to do. He wants us to do what we think is right. And of course, if you look at the news, everybody's going differently. Some don't want it at all, some want it all the way. So, today's conversation, of course, we talked about the 2 added positive cases that came out, so that puts Pecos at 5. And of course, there's
Reeves County at 5.
Reeves County at 5, yes. And of course, they're not, I mean, one of them is in Odessa, from what I understand, but only because they took him just to check. But CDC called, said he's doing fine, he talked to him on the phone. Another one is in confinement right now for his 14 days here. And of course, we had the other guy that he's already tested negative, which those are the last 3 that came up. So again, we want, to me, I think that we do need to open up a little bit. We need to start looking at it. I was trying to get hold of the judge today just to see what he has talked about with a committee that the governor has set. I think that we're ready. I think people have gotten the point of what we need them to do. I think they understand. And I believe that that's where we should be going next. It is gonna come before the council. I want the council to decide what we want to do. Okay, I wanna know that we have a consensus of what you all want, as well as the mayor just saying, which is what we're gonna do. Okay, I want everybody to have their 10 cents in everything that we're gonna do when it comes to our city, because again, it's like you said, Councilman, people will call you. People are gonna call and ask you. They look at you for guidance, they look at you as, you're the one that should know what's going on. And I remember people calling me when Jerry put that thing out. And I talked to the judge about it, what's going on. Some people don't know, I don't know. I said, so it's kind of rough when you can't answer questions because you don't know what's going on. And I've talked to the judge about it, and we have an understanding that at least one of us should know what's going on instead of just putting out. Because again, it was a broad message that didn't give clarification of what is it you want. You want a mask or you don't? That was kind of the middle of what that conversation was. What is it? What is it saying? So again, so the masking is encouraged, but it's not a must as of right now. It is encouraged that everybody wear a mask, but again, that is optional up to right now, even what the governor has said. Okay, now the city can turn around and say we want a mask on everybody. And we can do that. But again, we have to know if this is what we want. Because not everybody will wear a mask. And it's like Councilman says, will we send PD over there to take care of things? That's the worst thing, because we did have one of the churches have a thing, over 30 people, that we had to send, wait a minute, you don't have them 6 feet apart. You can't do this. You follow the rules, you can do it, no problem there. So it's not a matter that we wanna embarrass anybody, hopefully we don't wanna embarrass anybody. But we do wanna keep them in line where we need to be, and until the governor changes things, because like Governor said, well, to me, his interpretation is, I'm gonna say it, but I'm not gonna make it happen from here. It's gonna be up to you guys.
Very vague.
Big, yes.
Mayor, the governor, not the city attorney, the governor's announced that he's gonna have some new guidelines issued on Monday.
Yes.
And, his new guidelines may supersede what the cities and counties do. He may say that in his, so we'll have a little better guidance in a few days.
So we are meeting Monday again, Monday, right? Tuesday, we are meeting Tuesday again. But I want you guys to be informed, if you wanna call me or Seth or Councilwoman Baca, we would exactly tell you what goes on during those. Because again, it's just a little thing that we have because we can't meet anywhere. It was started with the 4x4 group, because we also wanna get opinions on opening, restaurants. We've been asking, feed us what you want to do. How are you gonna accomplish this if for some reason we decide we wanna open a restaurant? How are you gonna accomplish a 6 foot? How are you gonna accomplish it? Bring us something. So we have an idea that you all are thinking about it already. Do your plans, okay? But that's kind of quick rough of what we've talked about. The school, we know they're closed for the year. The superintendent, Ms. Russell, she's trying to figure out, because she had a lot of calls on the poor seniors. What is it we're gonna do for the seniors? What's gonna happen? They can't graduate, they can't walk down, they can't. So she's depending on the governor or the education director on how can we do something for them? Is it possible to do something? How can we keep them from following what the governor has said? So we all have our opinions. Miss Brenda McKinney from the hospital, of course, is always on there as well. She tells us what's going on, what the hospital has put out, what they're asking, the questions, things like that. So if you ever want to know, definitely call us. We will let you know what happened that day or what we talked about.
Or if you can send us an email or a text, that way, sometimes I'm in the middle of,
We just don't want to, I want to know that you guys aren't in the dark and that you have a say-so, because people will come to you.
And I have had people ask, especially, we have had a couple new cases pop up, so
Yes.
that raises a lot of questions and anxiety is high, so.
And of course,
So we'll decide something after the governor's suggestion, and then we'll come together and decide if we're, okay.
and please let the people know that we can't divulge where they are,
Right.
where they're
Right.
staying,
Yeah.
nothing like that. We can divulge certain information, like Ms. McKinney said. We just cannot put these people on the spot like that under HIPAA law. There's certain things, okay? All right, that's all I had to say on that. I just want to catch you guys up.
That's one question I was getting, who is it, or
Yeah.
say, hey, it may be me, you don't know.
Well, I threw it to somebody else, would you like for me to say that it was you?
Right.
And they said, no, I wouldn't. I said, well, then there it is. Respect it.
So, all right, anything else to come before?
I just wanna say one
Public
thing,
comment?
and I'll be quiet on this subject. I just encourage everybody, in the beginning, it was considered an elderly person's or ill person's problem or disease or effects. And I saw on the news where a 5-year-old little girl died, so it has no restriction on who it affects. So people just
Nope.
respect one another and respect the space that's there and common sense. Common sense, and my hands are raw from the sanitizers and washing your hands. I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do, and we'll get over this, but respect one another, respect the space, and, when you cough inside my shirt, and then I go home and change my shirt and wash my chest, cause What the hell's down there?
Exactly.
Anyway, I just encourage people to help one another, respect one another, and look out for one another.
Thank you, Council.
That's all, Mayor.
All right, let's go ahead and go to E. We'll consent agenda approving the minutes of April 9th, 2020 regular council meeting and expenditure report. If you guys would look at that, please.
Seth,
Yes, ma'am.
the Reeves County Golf Course.
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that we do have some employees that pay for, green fees. Have we spoken to the county about, maybe they're closed, I mean, the golf course is closed and they're still taking the payment, can they?
I don't know what the county has undergone in that.
Because we're still paying, so if we can get with them and see, you know, are they gonna reimburse the city, and so the city can reimburse the employee, or
Yes,
as
ma'am.
long as it's closed, are we still gonna charge you?
I don't have the answer to that, but unfortunately, this is one of those things that's known as an act of God, and so being such, they're under no obligation to provide refunds. And so, it's a question that we can pose to them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they've adopted a policy on that or not.
Okay, just a thought.
And of course, I know we talked about it in a closed meeting where he was thinking about opening it back up. Just not the house, or what does he call it, where he sells the
Clubhouse.
clubhouse. Well,
The pro shop.
he is considering
Pro shop,
opening,
thank you.
he is considered opening the course. He's mentioned that to me as well, so. We'll see what he decides to act.
This is,
As long as they stay and they don't hit each other with a ball, we should be all right. Okay, I need a motion to approve, please.
Mayor, make a motion we approve minutes of April 19th, 2020 regular city council meeting and expenditure report is presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilman Romero, second by Councilman Daniel. Go ahead and approve the minutes of April 9th, 2020 regular city council and expenditure report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we're on to F, non-consent. Number 1, discuss consider ordinance 20-04-01, amending ordinance 18-05-02 regarding seasonal vendors, second reading. Donnie?
Mayor, Council, Donnie McKinney, Chief Building Official. Thank you for this opportunity. This will be the second reading on this ordinance, and just to refresh your memory, we're asking to increase the seasonal food vendors' times up to 6 months and change for the season fee from $750 to $1,200 because we're giving them more months to sell. It's still a savings over the monthly fee. And the other thing we added in was about the double fee. If they don't get their permit before they start operation, or if it expires before it expires, then we will double fee them. So that's the changes.
So from 1,200 to 2,400?
No, sir, but we only had they had a 5-month window where they could sell, or a 4-month window, I'm sorry. We moved it to 6 months and moved the fee from $750 to $1,200.
But the double fee, you said if they don't have their permit.
If they don't have their permit, yes, sir, it'll be $2,400.
Ouch.
But they all get a
That's
copy of their
for-
permit
yeah.
and know exactly when
And
it
that's for anybody
expires.
who needs a permit. If they start on something before they pull the permit, then they're gonna be charged double.
That's actually the practice that we've had for quite some time. We've just put it in a couple other places besides just in the building code so that everybody knows.
And if they go to 1,200, it saves them money.
Absolutely, yes, sir. I think it saves them $350
Maybe a year.
versus paying every month for it.
So make sure we put it out there in the announcements. That way there's no excuse. If somebody's gonna come, I didn't know, you didn't let me know. So make sure we publicize it.
Have you had any feedback, Donnie? I'm just curious.
No, sir, like I said, it's been standard practice. We're just moving it to a couple of other places in the ordinance so that any part of the ordinance that they're looking at, they'll see that the double fee for,
And why the 6 months? Why extending it to 6 months?
because it was actually, there was a 6-month block in there, but you could only use 4 months, so we just said, well,
Oh, okay.
you can have a seasonal vendor. If they wanna go the whole 6 months that it's open, then we'll let them do it.
Make money for them. And of course, we will put it out as long as the council approves it. Once we approve it, then we're gonna have to go ahead and send letters and advertise, letting them aware. Okay, need a motion?
I don't agree with the double though. That's a big kick for somebody doing seasonal
It's
vending.
for anybody.
Huh?
It's for any permit.
Well, I'm referring to the seasonal vendors that, when you sell watermelons in Cantaloupe, you know, you can sell them a lot, you can't make a lot of money, but, I don't know, it's that's a big hickey. to me.
It is, but, if you know you're going to be selling, you know that you have to pull your permit before you start selling.
Oh, yeah.
And that's basically it. If you start selling before you get your permit, then you're gonna pay double, or you're not gonna sell at all.
Like I said, I'm still of the mindset.
And in all
And that's,
actuality, if
and
they-
you don't have to pay for all 6 months. If you only wanna sell 2 months, it's 500. Correct?
Yes, so if they paid the 1,200, then that carries them for the season.
Mm.
Now, if they come back next year and start selling without the permit, that's when they would get the fee. Most of the time on these seasonal vendors, if they got a double fee, it would be the double of 250 because they kept selling after the month they paid for. So chances of them getting a double fee of 2,400 is fairly slim.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 20-04-01, amending ordinance 18-05-02 regarding seasonal vendors, second reading as presented by Mr. McKinney, Chief Building Official.
I'll second.
Yeah, I have a motion by Councilman Teh, second by Councilman Baca, to approve ordinance 20-04-01 as presented by Mr. McKinney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
One against, Councilman Arona. Motion carries. Okay, number 2, discuss, consider resolution 20-04-10, A through C R budget amendments. Ms. Melanie?
Good evening, Melanie Purcell, Finance Director. I have a couple of items in front of you. The first two in particular, Resolution 20-04-11A and B, are both to simply clarify and ensure that it is fully transparent that these actions have taken place and that they had full budget impact. We've become very particular in making sure that we have every piece of paper we could possibly need to make sure that we have a clean audit trail. So that is the purpose of both of those.
Ma'am, did you say 11A, 11B?
Yes, sir.
What
So
happened?
11A was the purchase of the 7
No,
acres.
but what happened to 40? 10, 410.
I didn't have a different number. Apparently.
Thought we were gonna discuss the.
410 A and B, I apologize. It's 10 A and B. I have the wrong number on my list. One of these two. I apologize. For the resolutions, 10 A and B, purchase of 7 acres north of railroad tracks and the purchase of 620 acres. The purchase of the 7 acres north of the railroad tracks we discussed last week, and in your action you appropriated the funds using fund balance, but or retained earnings. I wanted to ensure that those were clearly articulated as a budget amendment. In the second one, this purchase of 620 acres was actually an action of the council last January, January 2019, in which the council authorized the purchase of this property using a note financed through a third party. That was premised on a master development agreement. That master development agreement, that was several back, did not occur. So when we closed the fiscal year, we had to record that as an outstanding liability. That note came due, and without a active agreement at that moment, we needed to pay it off. So we were already obligated to do so, but I wanted to ensure that the council was clear that this obligation will hit the books, and it is on the face of the financial statements. So I get squeamish when things happen off face, just because it's much cleaner and easier if I have a budget amendment and then I can show that transaction in the audit trail. The third item is to actually appropriate funds for the Cropac wastewater lift station. This has been an outstanding issue for the city for some time, and Mr. Lisenby will be able to give you all the gory details. But we included in this current fiscal year in the wastewater fund, water and sewer fund, funds to explore and determine how deep the issue was. Pardon the pun. But we needed to ensure that we knew what we were getting into. That has been completed. The engineering estimate, including design, is approximately $750,000. Given the issue at hand, as I said, he can explain all the technical components of that. I'm recommending that we go ahead and appropriate that out of retained earnings in the water and sewer fund to ensure that the entire scope of the project, not just design, but all of it be included and appropriated, therefore reserved from now and through the end of the project. It is estimated to be about an 18-month project and total $750,000.
Ms. Purcell, that 750 is engineering and construction.
Yes, that is the entire project, design, construction management, and complete construction. So that is those three resolutions.
Okay, resolution B,
Yes, sir.
do we have a developer?
No, sir. I believe we have a discussion with one, but not under this property
So right now the 3 million is coming out of our end.
at this time.
And
We are
then-
pursuing how to recover that.
And no guarantee that we'll recover that. With the economic times that we're in right now, very hard, no light in the, and I know we budgeted it, but I don't think it's a time for, I think we need to not.
Again, Councilman, at this point, it's already been approved.
Mhm.
This is the paperwork on
Yes.
the financial
I
side of it.
understand, but
We will be.
and I don't know how we're gonna get rid of this land if we cannot get a developer.
Things will get better, Mr. Arnold.
Well-
We're not gonna be in this slum forever.
I'm concerned, Dave.
I went to Midland this morning.
Mhm.
Activity was crazy on the way up there and back. I mean,
Mhm.
it's still there. They're still building new buildings,
Oh, yeah, I know.
new infrastructure.
On my,
It's not,
on my side of the company, we're still building, we're still doing, but.
see, I mean, it's just, we're going through a little slump right now.
But this is taxpayers' money right now.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know.
And it's a good investment. That property's gonna be worth, even if we don't develop what we want to, we'll be able to resell it for more than what we bought it for.
So at this time, the developer has not pulled out. They
Mhm.
have requested to be on hold for the negotiations, but because the note was held by an entirely different group, it needed to be cleared from the books. So this actually, from a financial reporting
It's just
basis,
paperwork side.
it is paperwork and it cleans it from any outstanding liability. So it is
So,
ours
so
free
are
and
we
clear.
guaranteed to get our money back, what is it, 3.5 million?
It's $3.5 million. The only guarantee, we now own the property free and clear,
Uh-huh.
so we can dispose of it as will get us the greatest return.
Because in one case, in the times that we're at, and I know we'll come to good times, but we already purchased it.
Yes, this was determined over a year ago.
Yeah, you said the money last meeting.
That's giving
Last
them.
year.
Last year, January 2019, this was approved.
Okay.
There's been a lot of ups and downs, and so at this point, the note came due, we needed to clear it.
Is this property for the West Pecos stuff?
Yes, sir. As I said, we do have a developer, they just, obviously in light of current conditions, have said, well, we just need to hold on for a minute. They have not bailed on us, which is better than the last couple.
That's the one promising thing.
That's the promising thing.
That's what we have to hold on to.
And we do have a
And it's
$3.5
ours,
million
it's our
asset.
land now, so we're stuck with it. But
Okay, need a motion to approve?
Does that make?
Wait, I got a question. The 10C, Cropac,
Cropac.
Cropac. Is this the new, no, this is not this,
This is.
where is this station at?
This is an
North.
existing,
It's an existing one already?
it's an existing one.
Councilman, this is Howdy Lisenby, Assistant City Manager. On the north side of town, I believe at the end of Avenue B, northeast corner of town, there's an old lift station that's called the Cropac Lift Station. It's been in place for a number of years. As development has continued to grow to the north, and as we're extending further to the north, this lift station most of it funnels through there, and it's not performing the way it should, and we actually need to make it bigger. So this project, we did a study to evaluate what our options are to improve the performance, and it came up with some recommendations. This is going to allow us to rebuild the lift station and actually provide more coverage and more service to the north side of town. And so it's critical for our entire collection system, and we've got to rehab it and actually enlarge it, and that's what this project does.
Is this the one on the east end?
Yes.
But just east of the old Western Cemetery?
Yes.
Yeah, that one, when I first moved here 6 years ago, or back home,
Yeah.
we questioned them with that city manager then, and because those transformers that were there were old, and then the meter wasn't being used, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, take it off or what, you know, but
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. That's
Yes.
one of the older ones.
It is. So that's the project.
That's needed.
Great.
With that said, Mayor, I'll make the motion to accept resolution 20-04-10 through C R, budget amendments as presented by Ms. Purcell, Finance Director.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Tay, second by Councilman Baca, to approve resolution 2020-04-10, A, B, and C as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to number 3. Discuss, consider resolution 20-01-11, A through B, R, approving various purchases by Ms. Parcell.
Good evening, Melanie Purcell, Finance Director. The first resolution, 20-01-11A, is a blanket purchase order for Rush Trucks. We currently have been experiencing a fair amount of repairs. Rush Trucks is the only reasonably local vendor who services our trash trucks. And so we had one truck go down completely, and it is not what we would consider salvageable, and so we have an outstanding invoice with them. We will exceed the $50,000 mark with repairs, including that particular item. So by law, by ordinance, we've come forward to you for any purchase agreements with outside vendors exceeding $50,000. We've estimated that from now through the remainder of the year, we will not exceed $75,000. If it should look like, heaven forbid, that will happen, we will come back to you to request additional. This is within their budgeted funds at this point.
The trucks, I know when Wally was here, he and I would go back and forth with this one as far as the maintenance of the trucks, the proper maintenance of trucks, but also people putting not the right things in the dumpsters, which puts a burden on the lifts of these trucks. So it's a dual combination of, I'll just say it, maybe not proper maintenance of trucks, maybe not proper care of trucks, but also of our taxpayers putting, some of our taxpayers overloading the dumpsters, and it puts a burden on the truck. So
That's great.
you know, we gotta.
We are looking at replacing at least 2 trucks through lease, as included in the budget, potentially more. We also have finally filled the fleet division with certified mechanics, 2 included. We've been carrying a vacancy for over a year. 2 years now, I'm sorry. But we have 2 certified mechanics who are already in just the first month really helping that crew turn the corner on establishing better maintenance protocol and working with landfill as well. So we have some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the maintenance side of it, and really working, with CES to try to educate people on you can't just put anything in those dumpsters. It just doesn't work.
So this $75,000 is just a blanket purchase for a new vehicle or repair of the vehicle?
These are repairs of the existing four vehicles. We did have one truck that is no longer with us. That unfortunately, the first set of repairs is within this dollar amount as well. But it's not worth continuing that process.
Melanie, do you want to go and talk about B?
I'll let Mr. Lisenby take that one.
B is to award a professional services contract for the design of the Cropac lift station that we just talked about. And so the evaluation was performed by West Texas Consultants, or WTC Incorporated. Engineer Chad Tompkins has come before this council on multiple occasions. He performed the evaluation for me, And so I'm asking him to then roll in and do the design of the new expanded lift station. And so this is, I believe, $70,556 is the amount for the design and construction services to design it and then help get it bid out for construction and oversee the construction process of completing that lift station. That's full professional services for this project, $70,556.
Do we have it?
Yes,
That's
sir.
it on the agenda just first.
Need a motion to approve?
May I make a motion we approve resolution 20-404-011 A and B, approving the various purchases presented by Melanie Purcell and Holly Leslie.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion by Councilman Orna, second by Councilwoman Gata, to approve resolution 20-01-118 and B as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Number 4, discuss consider ordinance 20-04-02, adopting a trash container ordinance, first reading. Mr. Johnson?
Mayor and Council, this is in response to a topic that was brought up in the 2x4 meetings that we were holding monthly before social distancing. And one of the things that's been discussed is that the city, the hospital, the county, and the school district are all partnering for the Pecos Proud Crew, which go out, they pick up trash, they cut down weeds, and then they turn around the next day and there's trash right where they were working the day before. I don't know if you've been down Stafford, but they've done some excellent work there. It's looking really good. But our native bushes around here are trash grabbers with the thorns and whatnot. And so one of the things that's been discussed is we're spending this money to have this crew that's dedicated towards beautification and cleaning it up. What are we going to do to help that so that we're cutting down on the trash that's blowing around? We have, I should say, a trash can ordinance. But if you look at the ordinance itself, what is in black is what is already in place. What is in red are the edits. And really with only crossing out, I think, one sentence of the old, almost all of this is new. And so the purpose behind this new language is to specify who is responsible for putting out trash can receptacles. Before it just said you have to have one. Well, who's supposed to put it out there? Who's supposed to handle it? Who's supposed to empty it? Who's supposed to be cleaning up the site? And so this specifically says that, you know, if you have a site and on your site you are generating trash, and unfortunately this is going to target our retail, because people walk out and unfortunately they throw the bag on the ground, they open it up right there and throw the carton on the ground. And so this ordinance would require that they provide them in visible places. Technically they could say that, well, we've got the 3-yard dumpsters in the alleyway, our customers can just drive down there and throw it in there. We all know that does not happen. There's a really sarcastic comment there that I'm just going to keep to myself. So this is encouraging them to put them out where they can be seen, requiring them to maintain them, not only to put them out, to make sure that they're secured so that dogs are not knocking them over, that the wind is not scattering them. So if they need to have a lid on it, we don't specify what it has to be, but they have to make sure that it's secured so that it's not tipping over and blowing out and just recreating the problem that we have right now. This does add language very similar to what we have for code enforcement, which says that if you refuse to maintain your site, we'll come in and we'll do it, and we'll charge you the cost of doing that. And then we'll turn around, we'll give you 30 days to pay that bill, and if you don't, then we will proceed to file those liens. Obviously, we don't want this to be the case. Just like we were talking earlier, we want compliance. We want people to take littering seriously and to be proactive to prevent it. The one thing that is in here, which may cause some heartburn, or maybe not, is that we are proposing a fine for businesses that fail to do this. And this is just like any other code enforcement. It's not the first time we see trash on the ground, we're going to issue a fine. We have a process through code enforcement where we give verbal and written warnings. We give them multiple chances to comply before we get to that point, because we're not trying to be heavy-handed, we are trying to seek compliance. But it is a fine of $2,000. If the council sees fit to lower that, it is certainly within your purview, as part of your motion, to make that change. But just like anything else, people don't take it seriously until it hits their pocketbook. And so we do want them to take this seriously, that we do want to have a clean city, and it's gonna take all of us to do that. Any questions regarding what's being proposed?
I like it, but with the economy the way it is, can we postpone this a little bit, a month or so down the road?
As the council desires.
That's my opinion on it. That the people.
Is there like a approved container, or does it have to be a certain size to meet the requirements? Could it just be something that they pick up at Walmart and say, well, there's a receptacle out there, you know?
It could be
there. I don't know if
anything,
that's-
as long as they're able to, as you see in Part C, as long as it prevents scattering. And so if they go buy a $5 trash can at Walmart and they can secure it so that it's not blowing over or anything else, then by all means, it complies. The biggest thing is that they have a place for people to put their trash, and that they're keeping it cleaned up, so they're not.
And I know Walmart already has some, because I looked at it there, and I know La Tienda has some, with that phone trash there. I know Gibson has them, because that phone trash.
Most convenience stores have them, right there where they park their, to get gas and going in the door. The problem that I see is, sometimes they're not maintained because, you know, the rush comes through, those trash cans are full, dogs get into them, there's trash everywhere, you know, they're shorthanded too, so, I like the ordinance because I wanna see, I hate to see trash everywhere. And, you know, I hate to see people when they're driving and throw out cigarette butts or, I hate that. Coke bottles, and there's people that do that, they don't care. You ought to go out to the country, see how many, in the last month, how many sofas are out there in the county. Sofas and stuff like that, that people, I guess they're moving out, so they just throw them out there for. I like the deal, and a fine will hit them in the pocketbook, they'll do something like that, but most of our places have trash cans. And they try their best, and I need to, I like it, I like the ordinance. I don't know about the $2,000, but.
It's up to, not.
Up to,
Up to.
oh, up to 2,000,
Yeah.
okay.
It can be an increment of 100, depending on the severity, I guess.
Right.
Shall find out.
No, not more than 2,000. I just saw the 2,000 and said, whoo.
Yeah, again, just like what I said just earlier about the COVID, you know, it's up to individuals in respect for who they are, where they live, where they work, what they do, keeping the place clean, you know.
That's right.
You know, it's up to the individual, you know, cause the business, I've seen it in La Tienda, and La Tienda has improved a lot, but there in the beginning, about last year and the year before, people, the workers would just go, buy the Cokes, the bottled waters, put them in the ice chest and throw the stuff right there in the ground or leave it in the cart. And the wind blows and it takes it everywhere, so it's just a matter of, I guess, people confronting people, hey, there's a dumpster over there. You know?
Yeah, and that's, and that I think it belongs to the, owner of the premises, you know, for them to tell their customer, hey, be sure you use the receptacles out there, or maybe they need to put signs that trash here. I mean, some of these guys that are here from other countries, from other states and cities, they don't, and other countries too, so I deal with them. And they don't respect like what you think, like what we would, you know. This is our town, yeah.
Yeah, until you hit them in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
Think about it, but.
and I deal with them, like in my stations, I have trash receptacles for my guys, and I say, man, when I drive in, and the mechanics have the habit of just throwing their boxes out there, like, I show up, and I say, hey man, put through the trash. Well, the mechanic says, you see the trash can right there? Empty it in there. I said, I don't wanna see nothing on the ground. I'll call their bosses, and, cause I hate that, I mean, it's flying everywhere.
Right now, I think one of the biggest problems that I've seen is right behind the stripes on Lincoln, where they change tires and they just leave the tires there, or the boxes of the.
Oh my God.
The fuel additive, filters, the big filters, you know, so maybe, yeah, hit them up and.
And as, you probably saw in the, last bi-weekly report, we picked up several thousand pounds of tires off of S Street.
Mhm.
And so people, they just do it.
Yep.
And so.
Yeah, if we could patrol that, but there ain't no way. There's no way we can do that.
But you need to find a use for those used tires and
Oh,
all
yeah.
those alligators.
Well, I mean, they used to could shred them and use them for paving.
Yeah.
That was the one that I don't think, yeah.
Yeah, there was a deal there in Odessa by that landfill that has mounds of shredded rubber that they used to use on the pavement. But now everything is not just asphalt, it's concrete.
Right.
So,
But again, going back to, you know, the way the economy is right now, do you wanna hit it now, or that's just a question I'm raising. Do you wanna hit it now, start now, or kinda back it off a little bit, a few months?
Let's just do it now, the way they're gonna start
I don't
giving
think it
warnings
costs any
first.
money to throw trash away.
Right.
You know, I think, I'll make a motion to approve it. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 20-04-02, adopting a trash container ordinance, the first reading, presented by Seth Sorensen, our city manager.
I'll
Need a
second.
second?
Way to go.
I didn't let you finish, I'm sorry. I just cut right in, I'm
I
sorry.
have a motion by Councilwoman Trujillo, second by Councilman Catania,
I was.
to approve ordinance 20-04-02, adopting trash container ordinance, first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Before we get off of it, I just wanna say that, you know, here we're trying to get our town looking good. You know, I hear negative stuff about Pecos, and I hate to hear that, but it's gonna be up to us to help, you know, help the community and all that, and if some of these folks, they have the privilege of coming to work at these companies that are here, working, you know, it's a privilege to come and work over here, because they may not have it over there, but they have it, but they need to respect the laws and the rules that we as community folks have to follow. So yeah, I'm on agreement with it, and if we need to start it, let's start it, because maybe they'll get the point quicker. And
Thank you, Councilman.
One more on the trash thing. About 15 years ago, my wife and I went to Reynosa, New Mexico. We hadn't been there in a while. And we went to this little shop from a guy that runs it. He was from San Antonio area. He asked us, "Where are y'all from?" I said, "We're from Pecos, Texas." He goes, "I went through there. That's the dirtiest little town I've ever seen."
oh man,
And you hear that a lot.
And it's always stuck with me, that.
I've always got into arguments, and I'll say it, with people from Fort Stockton.
Right.
That's a dirty little town. I said, I can say that, you can't.
yeah. Yeah, and the way I handle it, when they're telling me about that, I say, well, what are you doing here? Why don't you go back home? Well, I ain't got no work over there, so quit complaining. Cause I don't like it. I mean, I know what it is, but, I don't wanna hear it from other people. Hey, you don't have to be here.
Well, what you
Nobody
do
brought
is,
you.
well, the people need to do is be the solution, not the problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go to number 5.
One more. When I was younger and I could do, I had kids doing community service, we'd always do downtown area. It always collects all sorts of trash. Is there any way we can start working in that area?
We have,
You have, okay, I just saw it
Yeah.
the other day, so I'm sorry.
Due to the winds.
Yeah.
it doesn't take long
Right.
between people throwing it out and the wind.
Right.
Between those two things, it does not take long to get it dirty again, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we'll make sure that we get that in the
Thank you.
rotation again though.
Thank you.
Okay, number 5, discuss consider ordinance 20-04-03, adopting a tree ordinance, first reading. Mr. Thompson?
Mayor and Council, Seth Swenson, City Manager. This ordinance is born out of two different things. One is, again, we're working on our beautification plan. And the other is because we recently had an incident where an individual cut down 3 very mature, beautiful trees in our downtown without permission, and they were in the city right of way, so technically they're city trees. And so we started looking through our ordinances and realized we don't have anything to address people who cut down trees, especially healthy ones. And so between those two things is why we wrote this. The main points of this are that it would create a board, which is just staff. It would probably include the Public Works Director, the Parks Director, probably Code, as well as anyone else, just to get together. And the whole purpose of that is just to look at trees that might be dead or dying and give those permission. Obviously, anything that interferes with any of the electrical services or gas services or our own water and sewer, those would be looked at as well to make sure that we're not providing or creating any interference problems. But the other item that this does is it addresses those that have dead or dying trees, and the city is in this as well. Driving around the cemetery, we've got some pines that need to come out. We got the dead tree out of the Monte Rodriguez Park, so I'm very excited about that. It's gone. But the reason we don't want dead or dying trees, besides the fact that they look bad, is that they invite pests to come live in them, which then turn around and attack the live trees. Trees are a commodity here in West Texas.
Yes, they are.
And so we want to keep them as safe as we can. With that, this also describes don't top your trees. Don't do things that are going to kill the tree just by way of practice. And so we want to make this an educational thing for our citizens, for the city as well, on how we're treating our public trees. But we're asking to have a little bit of teeth to actually enforce it when somebody decides to plant in the right of way. They need to understand that they're accepting a certain responsibility, and the city is accepting a certain responsibility when they're in the right of way, and trying to get rid of those dead or dying trees that might be in town. Let's see, what else? It does refer to tree planting and care standards, which are nationally accepted standards, and so we're not just making up how people should be taking care of the trees. We're referring to arborists and horticulturists that actually know what they're talking about. Again, certain trees declared a nuisance, where if we do see a dead tree, we do have the ability to go through the normal code process where we write them letters, we give them notification, and encourage them to take it down before it does create problems. It's not so much of a problem here, but coming from East Texas, when you have a dead tree in someone's backyard and it's 70 feet tall, chances are it's going to hit your neighbor's house. Same thing happens here with fences. We get some pretty good strong winds, and it doesn't take much for one of these trees to fall over, take out a tree, or take out a fence, take out a car, take out a part of your house, your neighbor's house. And we just want to encourage people to proactively take that down before it becomes an issue. Again, we are proposing a fine not to exceed $500, so it's cheaper than littering. But again, we want to encourage them to do that and work with them to beautify our community.
I will make one comment. We all know Governor Abbott, right? Our governor. He didn't always use a wheelchair. He was jogging in Austin when he was in his younger days, and a tree limb fell on him, hit him behind the neck. He got paralyzed.
So that's why he's in a wheelchair. Wow, I didn't know that.
If we can educate
True
people.
story.
Sir?
True story.
Yeah, it's a true story.
We can educate,
I don't lie.
we can educate people not to plant trees under power lines. I don't know what it is about people that planting trees under power lines, but our rule now is we used to trim trees off service wires going from the pole to the house. Now what we'll do is we'll bring the service wire down, the customer has to trim the trees. Because we're not professional tree
Don't
trimmers
put
and.
power lines where the trees are.
I'll go to your house. But.
I do
yeah.
have, like, just a comment, if we do have people that, can't take care of their trees, like, if you find it to be a nuisance and they have to take it down or something like that, can we help them to do that so that, you know, say my 80-year-old uncle can't do it physically, you know, do we have a program to help our senior citizens that, you know, can we have a program to help our senior citizens?
We can
with
have a
things like
program, and that is actually something that this council's identified in other ways.
Mhm.
And we're currently working on, what we can do for our senior citizens, and so we can certainly wrap this into,
Part of that
potential.
committee that's gonna come together, they can kind of work together to try to offer
Yeah,
assistance.
so like we do that trash, you know, trash pickup in the different areas.
Right.
We can do that because
Because there's
not
gonna be some
only.
people that are either
That's true.
elderly or
Yeah, but they just haven't,
handicapped, they
they
can't
haven't been able to
physically do
maintain.
it.
That's
so-
true.
And
Good point.
we'll need to discuss that, because we're still in a situation where, city employees should not be going on private property, but perhaps we can find some volunteers in the community who are willing to, you know, knock it down and drag it to the alley, and then we can chop it up from there, you know. We can certainly look into some ways to help those.
We have a
that aren't
committee,
able to.
or we do what we call volunteer service to TNMP, where one day, two days out of the year, we'll pick a house or something in Fort Stockton. We spread dirt at the chamber, where they got the little trail, and if you've ever been to the chamber, in the front closest to the track. We spread all that gravel on a weekend on a windy day, all of us, or white is white, no pun intended. But we have also other areas in our company have gone and painted people's houses, fixed their yards, cleaned up their yards, so maybe something, a program that the city can volunteer.
Or maybe the tree board themselves, you know, the tree board that we select or whoever applies, you know, maybe
That's true.
that could be one of their to-do things as well, like, hey, there's gonna be times that you do need to volunteer yourself to help somebody out.
But when we get back to meeting with all the entities, I wanna introduce again, back in the day, some of you remember, where the county trustees, prisoners, did a lot of county work, did a lot of work in the town. So I'm hoping that we can invite the sheriff in and see if we can start this program again.
We gotta have inmates there first.
Ma'am? Yeah, that's, no, or the city prisoners.
You can't use federal prisoners.
Yeah, and to me it's wrong, cause a prisoner's a prisoner. I don't know how they distinguish, federal prisoners have more rights than a county or state prison, or city prison.
They do.
They do?
They do.
And they demand more. Menudo,
Oh, yeah.
menudo rights. But no, never mind, anyway.
You know.
Okay, need a motion to approve ordinance?
Oh, let me say one more thing, on the tree thing. National Arbor Foundation,
Yes,
every year they donate trees.
Yes.
Can we apply for trees?
we can.
Okay.
And, please help me with the company that was helping with some donations.
Is it
It
Noble?
was, no, it was an oil field company.
They're out west of town. You can see the logo. We've had some local companies donate, trees that we put in the city parks.
Yeah.
But yes, you can, apply to the Arbor Foundation. My experience with those, however, is that they send you seedlings, which are not really big, because they mail them to you in the postal service.
Okay.
And so, if you want more mature trees, you have to kind of go into your own
Or
power.
adopt, donations from the citizens and these trees in your honor.
Yeah, and I've been made aware that about 15 years ago, give or take, there was a private tree board, that what they did is they gathered funds and they would go plant trees. And the reason I know that is because the row of trees around Bessie Haynes, the pine trees that are there, were planted by that board. And
Underneath
so-
our line.
And so, maybe that's something that we can also encourage is, private citizens to work with, how we can find more trees and get those planted.
Yeah, like you
Isn't
said
that
earlier,
the
trees are a
straightest line that you
commodity
find?
here.
They light it up.
Okay, need a motion?
I'll make a motion that we, approve ordinance 20-04-03, adopting a tree ordinance, first reading, by Seth Sorensen, city manager.
Second.
Go ahead.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hill.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilwoman Saldana, second by Councilwoman Trujillo, to go approve ordinance 20-04-03, adopting a tree ordinance, first reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 6, discuss, consider granting permission to the Wood Group for operation of monitoring wells in the public right-of-way. Mr. Swanson?
Mayor and Council, Seth Swanson, City Manager. This is the same group that you saw, I think, 3 meetings ago. They have 2 additional sites. We have a lot of abandoned gas stations in town, and as part of the ongoing monitoring of the groundwater, they're asking to put in some additional sites. I bring it to you because it is in the public right-of-way, and currently we don't have a right-of-way ordinance that describes who's responsible. Therefore, we're defaulting it to you as the governing board. If you have in your packet the attached map, the 2 locations, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get this wrong, are 285 and 9th Street and 11th. And I can't remember the street that's right next to 285.
11th.
To the east.
Is that Walnut? Walnut.
Walnut's 2 over according to this.
Ash.
Anyway, Ash. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so it's at those 2 locations. Again, they're in the public right of way, and we're just asking the council to give them permission to go in. The extent of the impact of traffic is just while they're drilling the hole. Then really after that, they just come in, they pop the little brass lid, stick their stick down in there, take their sample, and they're done. So it really doesn't impact the traveling public that much once they're installed.
Where's, well, the drilling, where's, TxDOT at right now? I don't go to North Tweedy, Cedar Street. You know, they were in front of Walmart. How far north are they right now?
They are almost to Old City Hall.
So that wouldn't interfere with their.
No, and these are actually off
Off,
of,
okay.
off of 285.
East of 285.
It would be that old filling station right in front of, where they sell melons and cantaloupes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I believe
The one that's painted like red, green, blue, and.
yeah, I believe one of
The
these
old,
picks up that.
Right there on 9th and 285.
Yeah, right there.
Can we do anything about that? That's a big freaking eyesore on 285.
It's better than it was. If you recall back a few years, they had pallets and trash and 5-gallon buckets all over the place. So it is cleaner than it was, but
Now, the gentleman that sells his fruit and stuff there, he owns the property?
No. He rents it.
He rents it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And there's lessons.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve granting permission to the Wood Group for operation of the monitoring wells in the public right of way. It's presented by City Manager, Seth Swanson.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Councilman Orma, second by Councilman Tellez, to approve granting permission to the Wood Group for operation of monitoring wells in the public right of way. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, discuss, consider sending a letter of appreciation for completion of recent projects to TxDOT for FM 1450 and Highway 285 South North to Reeves County for the road work around the Reeves County Recreation Center. By Mr. Swanson.
Mayor and Council, just as the mayor read, this is simply a thank you. If you're willing to sign that on behalf of the city, both TxDOT and Reeves County are investing quite a substantial amount of money to make our lives easier and better. And I'm personally very grateful for the work that they're doing, especially on 285.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to dodge near as many potholes, even with the construction. And so I think it's really been great. The county is making a very substantial investment in the rec center. I'm grateful for that. And they've also done a chip seal on one of our local roads out there to help as they're going to start seeing some more traffic. And so That's all it is simply a letter, that if you're willing to, we would love to show our thanks and our letters.
We're starting here, right? I have.
I think there's one already going
We're pressing
around.
around.
Oh, okay.
Even have you gone to the water tanks on 1450, the washing field,
Yes, the big ones
the
down there.
big ones?
Looks like we've
That
got
new
more official
road,
ones.
Yeah.
and then
I was
going
gonna
on
say, I
South
don't think
285.
this is-
Man, you speed along, they're still working a little bit on South 285 past South 1450, on the highway. But like if you go to the Worsham tanks, man, it's just night and day, the travel and the smooth.
Yeah, that 1450 has really changed.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, it's nice. You can actually drive fast without getting hammered.
Yep, or dodging potholes.
Yeah, it is nice,
We
very.
need a motion to approve the letter?
May I make a motion to approve, sending a letter of appreciation for completion of recent projects to, in consideration to TxDOT for FM 1415 Highway 285 South and North, to Reeves County for the work around the Reeves County Recreation Centers, presented by City Manager Seth Sorensen.
Second?
No second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Aruna, second by Councilman Saldana, to approve the letter as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign, motion carries. Do we need to go into executive session?
Yes, please.
Sarah,
Yes, sir.
again, my name is Arthur, my legal name is Arthur, not Arturo. It's not that I don't wanna go by Arturo either, but my legal given name is
That's my fault. I apologize.
Okay.
It's Art?
Arthur.
Arthur.
Oh,
For you, it's
excuse me,
King
King Arthur.
For you, it's King Arthur, so just bow with him.
Okay, we'll go ahead and, go into executive session under Texas Government Code 551-071, 551-072, 551-074, 551-087. Time is 6:53.
want to.
Yeah, the lights on.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go back into, open session. Time is 8 o'clock. Is there anything to come before the council as, closed session, executive session? No? Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to item G. Is there anything to come before, discussion for the next agenda?
Yes, I'd like to put an item on the agenda that we suspend council pay for the time being and any foods and any, I don't know, training that's not necessary at the time, I know, even though, whether it be a webinar or whatever, so we can at least help our employees.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Tellez, second by Councilman Arena, to go ahead and adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Adjournment, motion carries. Time is 8:01.